Hey guys, Dr. Haywood here again. Um, this week's field trip, we're at Grand Teton National Park. I had to come up to Jackson for some testing meetings this morning, for some tests you have to take later in the year. And then I thought I'd jump over here to the park. Took me about 15 minutes to drive over here. You can see the mountains in the background there. These are the Grand Tetons. This all sits right along the Idaho border. Idaho's just on the other side of those, on the western side of the state. And Yellowstone National Park is north of Grand Teton National Park. So you have to pass through, at least coming from the south here, through Grand Teton National Park to get to Yellowstone. The tallest peak there, the Grand Teton, is 13,770 feet or something like that. And then there's tall peaks scattered through that range. You can hike up into the canyons, and on the backside, I like to run long distances. And during the summer, I do a lot of mountain running. And I came up here twice this summer and did a 15-mile run up Death Canyon over here. Before we got turned back by lightning, we were going to try and loop around the backside and come out. But it was raining and lightning. It was kind of spooky, so we came back down. And then I came back about 6 weeks ago and with a friend went up Paintbrush Canyon, and we did a 19-mile loop on that side and went up on the backside there and came back down. It was pretty fun. I sprained my ankle running down though, and it still hurts 2 months later. This is the visitor center here. It's pretty amazing. The architecture is really cool. You can see all these windows. I'm gonna move the camera here. You can see all these windows and the cool design underneath. They've got a lot of metal and wood. It's kind of a modern style. And from inside, you can look at the Tetons there and see everything. People like to come and climb these, do a lot of mountain climbing. And so a friend of mine wanted to come this summer and climb that tallest peak and asked if I wanted to come, but we haven't done that yet, but probably one of these days I will. One of my friends, good friends from when I lived in Moab, Utah, he's a park ranger at Arches National Park right now, but he often spends his summers up here as a climbing ranger, which means he comes up and he's an expert climber and does a lot of rescue training. And so when climbers get stuck or injured up there, his crew goes up and helps to rescue them. It'd be kind of a cool job during the summers, don't you think? Just climbing around in those mountains. It's really pretty up there. Lots of high alpine country, lots of bears. This whole valley is pretty awesome if you ever get to come here and explore. It's a flat, huge valley, and there's buffaloes, antelopes, elk, deer, bears. You often see buffalo driving through the park here. Maybe I'll go do that, I'm not sure. We'll see if we have time. But we'll go inside and look at the visitor center and some of the things they have to offer here. So they've got these huge beams in here. And these big windows you can look at the Tetons from. And we'll go look at some of the displays. It's kind of hard holding this camera sideways to move it around. Here's some climbing equipment they have, showing you kind of the history of climbing, the different types of tools and ropes they had to use. So here's kind of an evolution of ropes from the old ropes to the new nylon ropes. The old styles of axes they used to climb with, from the old to the modern. The old styles of shoes and crampons. Here's an older crampon and a newer one. Old leather boots with these metal hobnails or whatever they could put on them to give you traction in the snow, to the more modern climbing shoe with the rubber bottom. It's debated who climbed the Grand Teton first. Here's the backstory on it. It's the grand controversy. So here's the guys that they said climbed it first, at least documented it, the Owens party. And some of the equipment that they might have used or did use. Here's the barometer they used. There's summit registers. Their metal flag that they took a picture with. It's there. With their names and dates scratched into it. Kind of cool. I like to read books about mountain climbing because there's all these cool stories about guys that made these amazing climbs a long time ago, before the equipment was very good. And it's interesting how they showed that they were there, whether they carved their names or they left these metal canisters with notes in them or whatever they did, or took pictures. So we'll go look at some things. They have some animals on display in here, at least the hide. It's kind of cool. You can feel the actual hide of the different types of animals. So we'll look at some of those. There's a red fox, a gray wolf, a coyote. It's interesting, but the coyote is actually the softest fur in here that I felt. The bobcat. And they have their tracks in this plastic, so you can kind of see what their tracks look like if you're into looking at tracks. They have some more over here. They have these cool video monitors in the floor. You can walk on. Here's the black bear, paw prints and hide. There's big grizzly bear paw prints. Couldn't even fit them on here because they're so big. They have some historical information about the people who first came to the park and who explored it. Of course, they start with the Native Americans over here. Here's a Native American woman grinding corn or grain in a metate or a metate, however you want to say it. I say metate. Grind it in there. When I lived in Arizona on the Navajo reservation for 3 years, up the canyons we'd find all these cool ruins. We'd find these things all over the place, just left there next to the ruin hundreds of years ago, from where they used to grind corn and stuff like that. It's pretty cool to find them. There would be little corn cobs sometimes scattered around the ruin from, like I said, 1,000 years ago or more, just left behind. Different explorers. So when the white people started to arrive, kind of a cool history here. The photographers came and started documenting the valley and then sharing that out with the rest of the world through magazines and books and so forth. There are a lot of ranchers that came and settled the valley, and some of the original ranches are still here and you can visit them. In fact, I was reading in a newspaper the other day and one of the original ranch homes is for sale right now, which is kind of unique. So if you have millions of dollars, you can come buy it. There's pronghorn horns on the tracks. Mule deer. Soft hide, but it sheds. You can see all this fur everywhere. And here's their tracks. Bighorn sheep. There's part of a horn in their tracks. Elk. It's like the neck, because it has this long neck hair, this dark stuff here, and then it fades into the light brown right here. In their tracks, these are kind of small tracks for an elk. Usually they're a little bit bigger than that. Bison. They look like cattle tracks, kind of. They have kind of a soft fur, but it's thick and matted. And then the moose. And they're big tracks. They have huge tracks. And here's what your tracks look like, your hands and your feet. Here's kind of a cool thing. Let's go around to this side. So here's Jackson. This is where the museum was I took you to. I live down here, south of Jackson. And then I'm up there in Moose. And these are the Grand Tetons. And then Yellowstone National Park is up north. And this is the western edge of Wyoming. So we're on the far western edge of the state. Trying to think of what else to show you. I think these video monitors in the ground are pretty cool. That you can walk on. There's a giant moose statue. Nope. They've got some elk horns over here. I'll show you those. Alright guys, that's about it for the visitor center and the tour. The Tetons are really pretty. There's a bunch of lakes at the base of the Tetons, like Jenny Lake and some others that are really fun to come up and fish and boat on. They have one of them has a little tour boat that takes you across the lake, or you can rent stuff around here. It's a really pretty place to visit. Pretty amazing park. You can see a ton of wildlife. The buffalo are fun to visit. But I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope it wasn't too boring. It's kind of a smaller visitor center than I thought it would be, but it's pretty nice. It's a nice building, pretty cool place. So, see you guys.